We got 2 eagles. There we go. All right, we got at least 1 eagle. I just guess we don't need the Wichita eagle. That was good, right? All right. Anyways, it's been a heck of a week. We're gonna get started then. Thank you everyone for being here. We have a few things to go over. First, going to start off, I think, on a lighter note, where we're going to have the results of the coloring contest. A few weeks ago, we announced that the coloring contests were for the kids in our community. We are trying to get some of our services out to folks during, the self-quarantine and coronavirus pandemic, so that we can still offer something to the kids in our community, and a coloring contest was one of the ways we're doing that. So I am happy to announce that there were many people who competed in the contest and did a phenomenal job, but sadly we can only pick 3 folks to be the first, second, and third place winners. So with that, I want to announce that the 3rd place, we have Dominico Cooper, who not only drew, and we're gonna ask the B just step over this way a little bit. I think that counts as a mask, so we can be closer. But as we can see in this work of art, he not only drew Beatrice, raise your hand, but also Beatrice in her favorite place, which is the outdoors, and also made sure that she was in the sun and stay hydrated with some lemonade. So great job, Domenico. The next one is the 2nd place. We have Eliza and, well, I guess we have 2 second places. Eliza and Jacob Kosi. They went, we'll go ahead with this. So they went all out with their coloring, and even drew Beatrice with a fellow bee. And so we wanted to highlight this and say great job to those 2. Very good clapping. And all right, finally, we're going to talk about our 1st place winner, which is Valda Klantz. By the way, I'm really bad at last names, but Valda Klantz, who not only drew Beatrice in Riverside Park, but she included the Riverside Park historic rocket, which is very cool. So thank you, Valda. So we want to thank, again, all of our participants. We know Beatrice is excited to have all of them hanging in her office. So all this art will be displayed in Beatrice's office. And I also noticed that many submissions didn't get picked, but can't compete with those great local artists. So be sure to tune in for more fun virtual contests for our kids. Thank you, guys. So with that, CityArts, so I'll give an update. We have new shows in the CityArts galleries that are opening. Residents can view works by Ken Enquist, Brenda Jones, Pam Hayes, and James Apricot by making an appointment with the front desk. So please make an appointment with the front desk for to get through and see the new shows over at CityArts, and the number for that is 316-350-3245. This appointment will allow us to continue our social distancing and allow us to have our citizens not only see new art, but do so while being safe. So with that, I want to talk about Neighborhood Night Out. As we continue to work on enacting our measures to protect our community from COVID-19, which is spiking right now, many of our local beloved annual events have been canceled. This actually includes Neighborhood Night Out, but it's not fully canceled. It normally happens in August, but right now we are trying to move it down to the middle to end of October. So our goal is to have this still happen in October with hopefully when COVID will hopefully get our numbers back down and we can do it in a safe way. So we're looking forward to getting out and connecting with the community, but of course safety comes first, and we're going to keep you all posted as we make those decisions as it gets closer to October. So housing vouchers, and now I'd like to invite Housing Director Sally Stang, who's doing a terrific job, up to discuss our housing vouchers to help families in need. So Sally.
Good morning, and thank you, Mayor. The Wichita Housing Authority has begun accepting applications for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. It's the first time we've opened the waiting list since 2018. The Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program provides rent assistance to income-eligible families to make housing more affordable. Our service area actually covers all of Sedgwick County, Butler County, and Harvey County, with the exception of Newton. Applications are available online, which helps with social distancing, and can be made at wichita.apply, A-P-P-L-Y, the number 4, housing.com. It can also be reached from our website. There are a couple of links directly from our website to the applications portal. Free public computers are available at the Advanced Learning Library and at other Wichita branches, and we have housing staff available at each of those locations to assist people if they need help applying. In addition, we have staff stationed at the neighborhood resource centers, so Evergreen, Colvin, and Atwater. When vouchers become available, applicants at the top of the waiting list will be contacted to complete a formal application. It's at that time we'll need their social security card, their verification of immigration status, and documentation of income, expenses, and so on. So we're very happy to have that, that resource available. And we actually received almost 1,000 applications yesterday, so a ton of demand. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead and ask questions. You can ask all your questions to Sally, actually. Go ahead.
Thanks.
Explain what makes it possible to have it come back? Did you guys get new funding, or why is it that it's available again?
So we had been running close to exhausting the existing waiting list that closed in 2018. We had originally intended to open the waiting list April 1st, but because that was in the craziness of COVID-19, we postponed the opening. So we do expect that we'll be contacting people from this new list in the next couple of weeks. So the people at the top will receive service in probably the next 14 days.
How about the timing of this? A lot of families out of jobs, laid off. This comes at a pretty good time for them, right?
It is very good timing. We also are running an emergency rent and utilities assistance program, and we're receiving hundreds of applications trying to avoid eviction. So we know there's tremendous demand. Unemployment numbers are up. People are having a real challenge in paying their rent. And the federal moratorium on evictions in housing with HUD-backed loans actually expires tomorrow. So we expect that demand to increase even further.
How long will it take for families to hear back? Probably a little while, right? 1,000 applications.
Yes, it will take some time. Normally our waiting lists run, 1 to 3 years on a waiting list to get called. The fact that we were actually expired the previous waiting list in its entirety means we'll be acting swiftly to contact those first probably 300 families in the next 14 days.
Who are candidates for this program?
So any family, elderly, disabled families, the only things that prohibit people from participating in the program are we cannot serve people who are subject to a lifetime registration on the sex offender list, those who have produced methamphetamines on federally subsidized property, or families where no member of the family has eligible immigration status. We do have some other screening criteria related to past performance in the program, things like that, criminal background screenings, but those aren't absolute cannot. It really depends on the circumstances. The 3 I mentioned previously are the ones we have no discretion whatsoever. So sex offenders, meth, and immigration status. Okay.
And is this a voucher for an amount, or does it cover the entire rent?
The voucher covers a portion of the rent that exceeds the family, 30% of the family's monthly adjusted income. So and it covers for rent. When we do the calculation, it's for rent and utilities. So the family's going to pay 30% of their monthly adjusted income for rent and utilities, and then the voucher picks up the remaining portion. There are limitations. We have rent caps. We need to make sure that we're not paying more than market rate for a unit, because the people are renting units in the private market.
Are these federal funds?
They are federal funds, yes. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And I just want to mention, because last week I was late on a press conference, so I wasn't sure if everyone got this information, but in addition, we are extending or creating a new program using CARES Act money to extend our discounted public transportation program. It's the 20 passes for $20. It normally passes are $1.75 a ride. This cuts that down to $1, and it's in response to some of the economic hardships our families are facing. So we are doing a multitude of different programs, and we also encourage anyone. We had a no shut off with the water on the onstart of COVID, and we are encouraging folks that if you are having still an economic hardship at this time, to call the water department and work out a plan with them. And they also have information on different community resources out there to help folks get through this time. So we're at the city level, and Sally has been just a really key part of this, is trying to figure out what we can do with our tools to help our neighbors get through what is a tremendously terrible economic situation. So with that, speaking of responding to our economic situations, the next update is about the budget. This Tuesday, the council received help, the first public budget hearing for the budget. So this Tuesday, we're at the first hearing for the budget. We need nearly 10,000 individuals. We had nearly 10,000 folks engaged with the budget simulator and social media town halls this year to provide feedback on this budget. I think our online went up almost double what it was in previous years, and that's folks using our budget simulator to help us identify where the values are within our community when it comes to valuing certain services over other during a time when we have to cut 11 million out of it this year and another 16 million out of next year. So please check out the budget documents at wichita.gov and email any thoughts or concerns to myself and to other council members. I also want to point out that our budget is presented by the city manager, and it is up to us as electeds to make changes to that and to eventually approve it. So the budget that was presented last time is pretty much, think of it as a rough draft. It's the first proposal, and then now we hope that the community can give us feedback so we can adjust this and make it more reflective of the values of our community. And I do want to say, cutting $11 million is not easy. We can't just do this without having pain, and unless the federal government is able to pass legislation that will help cities like us who are suffering from the economics of COVID, we will likely have to move forward over the next few years with these type of cuts. So it's really important to get that feedback so that we know how to, I guess, have less of a negative effect with some of these cuts, because the services folks are expecting, have to make those hard decisions on some of those services. So please make sure you give us our feedback. With that, any questions? We'll go from here and then to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Wanted to ask, you sent out a tweet last night in response to what changes the county commissioners made in regards to bars. Can you share your thoughts on that, and do you plan on doing anything in terms of the city of Wichita, in terms of any bans or changes similar to what you did before?
So last night I had and the question was about, I tweeted and posted on social media my thoughts on the county's amendments and changes to their top health officials' order. As everyone knows, I think I put out last week, Wichita's now in what's called a red zone. And this is coming from the White House, so not just from CDC. The White House has determined that Wichita, because of our spike in numbers, we are now a red zone, which means they recommend that we close all bars and that we close all nightclubs and all gyms at this point. The top health official over at the county level has responded and said that he was going to close all bars and nightclubs and I think public pools. There's a few other items in there. The county commission also serves as the board of health, so an order like this, they have the right to amend it, to change it. And what they did is they made some changes that I think the order itself is a good step forward, and what they did is a really great step forward. Some of the changes have me a little concerned. As people know, our police have reported back that some of these nightclub type environments, which folks haven't been wearing a mask, haven't utilized the social distancing, had the 45 person and under limit on those in there, have become some of these hotspots for COVID transfer. So my job right now is to figure out how do we avoid a complete shutdown? How do we not get to the point that we were early on this year where we literally had a full-on shutdown and put everyone economically in turmoil? Because a lot of those folks also have used up their unemployment benefits for the year. So when I look at what they've done, and then as a city leader, what we can do to kind of complement where they're at, there's a couple things, and I'm working on this. So one of them is we have 2 tiers of liquor license. One of them is pretty much think of bars that only sell liquor. They really don't sell food. 30% or less of their income comes from food. That's where the order targets. If you are one of those places where you're really only giving out alcohol, more the nightclub type scene, those will be temporarily closed down for the next 4 weeks because of what the county's done. The other one is, and this is the majority of the bars in Old Town and the ones that we've had reports back where towards the end of the night, they really can't enforce mask ordinances anymore. People are drinking, they're dancing, they're having a good time. At that point, it's very tough to get the orders enforced. Those are still open because this order doesn't affect the second type of liquor license, because we also want to recognize that a lot of restaurants are doing it right. A lot of restaurants are going out of their way to try to make sure that people can be safe and dine out still. So what I'm right now working on, and this is just what we're working on, I'm still running the traps with the council to see what the feedback is restoring maybe a cutoff time frame for liquor. Because what we saw at the county is they cut off they stopped the curfew. Because at a certain time, that's when we're seeing bars get turned more into nightclubs. So is there a time when we should be shutting off liquor so that restaurants can still serve liquor and still you can still go out, but also we don't turn into 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock, these crazy rave type scenes. And also one of the things we're looking at the city, is there a way that we can promote more dining outside by opening up through ordinance our parking lots, some of our streets, and some of our sidewalks, because we all know it's safer to eat outside. So is there a way that we can, at this point, provide some more opportunity for folks to go out, safely eat, and to stimulate this sector, not close it down, while also making sure it stays safe? And like I said, where we're at now, this is kind of a Hail Mary still. Like the White House says these should all be shut down by now. Our numbers, we are at the point where we can if we don't take action now, we probably will get to a bigger shutdown. We have a chance to take action now and be effective and make it so we can not have a bigger hit later. So good question, very long answer, sorry about that. But that's what I'm working on back there. Not sure if I'm supposed to be telling you guys that, but I think that we can come to a good balance with safety and still providing opportunities. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned on social media there were probably a couple of bars or establishments that were trouble areas. Why not just walk in there, not you, but send police in there, send someone in there to enforce this? I know you wanted to start with just education first. I think people have heard now, you're supposed to wear a mask, you're supposed to social distance. When will the line be cut off there?
So what we're finding, and I'm not a lawyer, but I have experience in the legislature, and I spent a big chunk of last week going through our ordinance, which refers to our statutes, state level statutes, and refers back to our ordinance on enforcement. The reality is, at this point, even with the mask ordinance, our toolkit is not really designed for a pandemic, where, you know, Dr. Min's toolkit is way better for this. Like, he can actually just make a blanket order and respond fast to rising numbers. Ours, for my interactions with legals, even though we have the tools to do it, where, hey, you're in violation of a health order and of a city ordinance, you now have 5 days to correct this, or the chief of police could close you down. There's still a whole level of due process between that, which is good, because in normal situations, you know, you want to make sure that businesses have the opportunity to tell their side of the story. You want due process in normal situations. When we talk about COVID, however, we have to move kind of fast, because exposing people to unsafe environments has a real direct effect. So, short story long, I guess, to your answer, is we are looking towards that. We have already sent out, as the police chief has announced, letters to businesses that have been spoken to, and have let them know that, you know, according to Section 12 of our ordinance on liquor license, which gets into the nuisance statute, like, you have to uphold the public health. And by not upholding these, you are not upholding public health. You put yourself at risk. The reality is that is it's a longer process than what we need when it comes to a pandemic such as this. So we are looking at those options. It's just not as sharp a tool for a pandemic as I think Dr. Menz and the tools over at the county have.
Can you explain how the next year's budget is being affected, not just the immediate one? So
we project out with our budgets, and I think I actually have the budget person here. Oh, no way, okay. This is great. Yeah, do you want to come up and help? So as she's coming up, and she can get into more details, we normally project our budgets out based on revenue projections, and a lot of those are being affected by COVID, and it gets into our modeling. But we have someone from the budget office who actually, I think, dive a little deeper into that question. Ma'am.
Yeah, I brought the books in case I forget, right? My name's Elizabeth Goldtree, Goltry. I'm with the finance department, and my title is budget officer. As far as we are forecasting a lot of declines in various types of revenue. For example, sales tax, take this. Sales tax, which is based on retail sales that are taxable. We receive that revenue 2 months after the sale takes place, and we expect immediate declines in that revenue source. Another one is interest earnings. We're expecting that one to decrease basically by half due to the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates to nearly zero. Other places where we've already seen decreases, one is gas tax. The state of Kansas taxes motor fuels based on gallons consumed. Generally, when fuel prices are as low as they are now, we see an increase in consumption. But due to the stay-at-home order, there was obviously a decrease. And another thing to keep in mind moving forward is that when school's in session, that induces driving. So we would expect even if school is an online setup this fall, that would continue to be less revenue compared to the prior year. Another economically sensitive revenue source is motor vehicle tax. That's your car tag tax based on the value of your vehicle. Of course, during this time when we're facing so much economic uncertainty, it makes sense to hold off on purchasing a new vehicle. So those are some of the examples of revenue sources that we're expecting to go down in our projection period.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you spell your name, please?
Goltry.
All right, thank you for that. It's like they knew you were going to ask that and they sent you down. It's great. So other questions?
Back to the health order and bars.
Yes.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I just thought about it. We'll get to you after. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Talk about bar owners who have publicly said that they're not going to follow this order. They're going to do business as usual. What's your reaction to that at this point?
So there's confusion about what what is happening, I think. And there's also confusion about, the difference between a statute versus an ordinance versus a public health order, right? Like, there's different levels of government. To get directly to your question, if you're someone who sells alcohol, you have a higher level of responsibility to our community. So if you look at the mask ordinance and it says, hey, businesses that refuse to have masks, you're going to get fined, right? You're going to get, I think it's a very low level of fines. There are some businesses who I think are saying, we'll go ahead and give you $200 or whatever the fine is, and and we're just going to chop it up as a business expense, and we're going to let people come in and be in an unsafe environment. Like, so I've seen that type of post, right? Not really that direct. Usually it involves some name calling to me, but the reality is, if you're selling alcohol, you also fall into this new category that you have to have a healthy environment. We don't just let anyone sell food. We don't just let anyone sell alcohol. So part of the ordinance, and then even the state law, when it comes to having an alcohol license, you have to not make people sick. So by following public health orders, and this is the letter that went out, not only are you obliged, I think, morally, to help us stop this pandemic so that kids can go to school, we don't have a large economic shutdown, and we also save lives, but also ensuring that you take your responsibility seriously when it comes to keeping people healthy, your customers and your employees. So I think as part of the confusion is the enforcement just the fine structure, which is very low, which to most people it is, but also you have to go above and beyond for us to give you, I think, the responsibility of a liquor license. So that's the other kind of caveat to this. Yes, sir.
2 questions. One, today you say what the county did yesterday to move in the right direction, but I think last night looking at your tweet, I sense, probably not just me, a level of frustration there. So would you talk about that frustration, and then also, why aren't you wearing your mask fancy side out? I noticed there's a fancy side back there.
Oh, yeah. When did KWCH start showing up to these? Okay, so hard question first. My masks, I have to clean them. And look, Megan comes forward because she's going to make sure that I don't say anything silly. Well, give me that look. So, yeah, I have to clean these, and my neutral masks are normally, right now, I haven't washed them yet. This is my clean one. It's non-neutral. The fancy side is actually a political party. It was given to me by members of a political party, and I got to tell you that I'm a mayor, not a party player, and particularly when we're out here. So my goal is to kind of stay focused on that. But yeah, that's what's going on. Is there's actually symbols of one of our 2 major political parties on the other side, and I think it was given to me by a person who handcrafted it. Now, to your other question about my frustration, I got to tell you guys, there's no blueprint for how to deal with a once-in-a-100-year pandemic, right? Like, that if we do this wrong, people will die. So this is more than just politics. This is more than just trying to be a popular mayor or even a good mayor. This is do what you got to do to keep people alive. And it's frustrating because since we don't have that blueprint or that playbook, we're trying to navigate this in a way in which we are valuing life while also ensuring that we are doing what's right for our community, right? Like, so if I sound frustrated, I don't mean to sound frustrated. It's that it's a challenge, right? Like, and we're trying to do it right. And my skill set is legislative. Like, I have the ability to look at policy and try to work with people, particularly people who don't agree with me. But my job also is to communicate accurate information. There's a lot of bad information out there, so I kind of joke about how I have no filter. Like, I'm just gonna tell you like it is. And so sometimes I think that comes off as frustration, and I will tell you there's a little frustration for folks who are trying to get the right policy in place that's gonna save lives and ensure our kids can go back to school, and working with intergovernment. But my intent wasn't to to show emotion. It was to be more focused on, this is one of my issues with the policy, and this is what I think we could do to fix it, which gets back to, I think, the first question we had. Do you have a follow-up about my mask?
I didn't mean for the mask question to be so hard. I thought it was flowers or something.
Yeah, I mean, my mom sent me a whole box of these too, by the way. So I do have, my mom lives in New Hampshire, so I do have Patriot ones and stuff that I probably will not wear, or else I'll get in trouble. But yes, you have a follow-up.
What's your feedback you're getting from bar owners, business owners after the health order was signed and then after some amendments were made?
So no one likes the situation. Absolutely no one likes what we're going through right now, right? Like, I don't like it. Like, we had an incredible year lined up, and we had to cancel everything that I think is not only expected of us, but above and beyond. 150-year celebration of our city, we had to cancel that. Now, when it comes to service workers, people who bartend, and I think I tweeted this out too, my mother was a waitress growing up in the morning and the lunch, and then she was a bartender at night. We would not have made it without her income. So this isn't political with folks, right? This isn't like, oh, I lean this way or that way. This is their life. This is how they make their money and feed their kids. So I 100% acknowledge this is a bad situation, and there are no easy choices. There's not even good choices at this point. There's just less bad choices, right? Like, what is the consequence if we don't take this tough choice? So a lot of the feedback I'm getting, although I have gotten some support where there are folks who say, we got to take the hardship now so that we can avoid an even bigger hardship later. There are some of that. A lot of what I'm hearing, though, it's the type of stuff that in their shoes, I completely understand. Like, this is the type of stuff that people are scared, and I completely 100% understand that. And I'll tell you, I think it was one of the commissioners yesterday said, hey, let's put some money aside to try to help some of these businesses and folks who might be shut down, who will be suffering for this. And just kind of background information. This is someone who politically I don't agree with and very much, and honestly, personally, we've had some issues, and I texted him this morning and said, hey, I have a policy person working on how other cities are distributing some resources to bars in service sector areas that have been closed down. Can I forward you that? And he responded, yeah, of course, yeah, that would be great. So I think that there is a consensus politically between folks who normally don't agree with each other that this is bad, we have to make these decisions, and what can we do to make it easier on folks who are feeling this the worst?
Last question for me, and I'll shut up. There are business owners out there following the rules, doing the right thing. What's your message or warning to the business owners who are not? I mean, you can see they're affecting the livelihoods of the ones that are.
I think most business owners want to do the right thing for their customers. They love their employees. I have not met a small business where the owner doesn't consider employees as family, right? And this is Wichita. Like, we kind of have that vibe anyways. We're all in this together. On the other side, I think that the majority of the folks, and there's a small minority of them, I think, that are louder and say, hey, we don't want any type of regulation through this crisis. We just want coronavirus to hit us, and whoever perishes, perish, right? That's kind of the messaging I get from some of those folks, and it's usually either not, I think, a full understanding of what coronavirus is and does. You know, a lot of them say, well, it's just like the flu. Like, it's really not, you know? Or it's a complete rejection of, I think, the severity of it. And it might be because it's tough to comprehend what's going on, right? Like, I don't fault anyone for that, where the idea that, like, this isn't a real big deal and these numbers are all made up, like, there are people who I think find comfort in thinking that, and that's fine. I can't. My job is to protect people. My job is to help the economy. My job is to enforce our laws. So, but I do want to point out the overwhelming majority of business owners are law-abiding, doing the right thing, looking out for their customers and their staff, like family. And The ones who I think are trying not to, those ones I think are a very small minority of business folks, and I think that it's attributed to being afraid or not fully understanding the size of COVID and what's happening. I do this all day, guys. This is way better than answering emails. So, all right. Well, hey, thanks a lot. If you guys need anything, and I'll go ahead and put up this one and then the other one in case people want to snap pictures of our top 3 coloring contest winners. And if not, thank you. Reach out to me if there's anything I can do for you.